Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. At least you're awake. All right. Good to see you again. It's good to be back with you once again. The first time I was here, we talked about social justice. Remember that? Anybody remember? Oh, good. You remember it? Or you're just making me feel good. Okay, that was nice. We talked about church teaching on social justice. What were some of those things that the church teaches about our moral life and things like that? Well, coincidentally, and remember, I had also talked about that these sessions are kind of like our faculty meetings, that this is an opportunity for you as the primary educators in your families and your homes to gather your information together that you can share it with others. Well, we have a faculty meeting coming up on January 26th, and that's on these brightly colored sheets there. There's a 3-hour workshop called On Faithful Citizenship, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock to noon. It'll be right here in this room, and it'll be an opportunity to learn a lot more about Catholic social teaching. So I'd encourage you to consider one or both from your family coming to participate in that, and I think you're going to learn a lot. I think it'll be a worthwhile workshop. There's no cost for it. It's free, but we would appreciate if you would let us know if you're coming. So if you are planning on coming, if you just give me a phone call or drop me a line on the email, let me know so that we know how much coffee to make for that day, that kind of thing, okay? But really, I think it's a continuation of your education. It's not just for parents, it's for the whole parish, but especially for you as parents and primary educators of your children. I think that would be really a great workshop. Also, you will see in next week's bulletin, I had an announcement or two before Christmas. This is an invitation to the men of the parish. During Lent, we will have an opportunity on Tuesday mornings. I know, we're thinking about Lent already, and Christmas is coming down here. There it is. There goes Christmas, and Lent is really right around the corner. It's not that far away. On Tuesday mornings at 6:30, there will be a men's gathering in the great room, an opportunity for prayer, scripture, reflection, discussion, and a sending forth blessing for the day. 6:30 on Tuesday mornings. It may seem early. For some of you, it may already be too late because you're already headed to work at that time. Tried to pick a time that I saw a lot of the traffic going by around 7:30 on Town Line Road, and I figured, okay, we can get some of those people to come in at an hour earlier and to gather for prayer. It's a men's group. We're going to use materials based on the National Men's Fellowship, Catholic Men's Fellowship. It's a national group, and they have materials. We're going to use that. So watch for that announcement, men. Women, nudge your men. Okay, say, remember he talked about that. Why don't you consider going once a week, 6:30 on a Tuesday morning. And what the heck? Is it too early? It's Lent. As they said in the old days, offer it up, right? Okay, so you can do that. It'll last an hour. We'll end by 7:30. If people have to leave earlier in case, the timing for getting to work or something, that would be fine. But we'll end by 7:30. Good question. Okay, just 1 hour. And the Tuesdays of Lent. Okay, today we're going to, I don't know if Sister explained to you, but the sessions on your schedule were kind of changed. Next time you'll really be doing the Lenten workshop and doing all of the things preparing for Lent. I think you'll already be into Lent by that time or real close to it. Today is part of that preparation. We're going to be looking at the RCIA and the Gospels of Lent. All that in 50 minutes or less. To begin, what I'd like you to do in your tables, you have that half sheet there. I'd like you to discuss a time when you joined a group. When you joined a group or an organization or had a new beginning in your life, and what was that like for you? What kind of process was there that brought you into that? Who brought you in? Did somebody have to publicly speak on your behalf and testify and say, yep, this person's okay, yep, let him in, let him in. No, maybe not. No, but we're thinking, whatever. Did somebody sponsor you? They have to do that kind of thing. Were there any rituals as you entered into that? Even if you think about how you come into a work situation, there are certain rituals sometimes that you have to follow. You got to learn the system. Might be a simple ritual, or it might have been a very big one, a flag waving and candles were lit and fireworks went off, whatever it was. Look at those questions, talk about those things. Who taught you the ropes? Who taught you what you needed to know in the organization? Was there somebody? And what did they teach you? What kind of training did you go through? And did you have to make any changes in your own attitude and behaviors as you came into the group? Well, we always did things this way. And people would say, well, not around here you don't. And you had to learn a new way of doing things or thinking about things. In your groups, very briefly, talk about that. Everybody share an experience, all right? You have 4.5 minutes, so you get about 52 seconds apiece, okay? All right, let's see what you can do with that.
Yeah, I never joined
Okay, your minute is up. There was an awful lot of chatter going on and a lot of sharing of different kinds of stories. It was interesting to hear just the bits and pieces of what you were experiencing. Does anybody want to share one that was perhaps special or dramatic or powerful or unusual or in any way that you'd just like others to know about, or that you heard somebody else you'd like to share their story? You'd say, wow, I didn't know that. Just give us an example of one. Okay, then I have to... Go ahead, Joy. Yours or is it okay? Amy?
Bob's parents have been involved in marriage enrichment for many, many years.
Okay, mine.
Bob's parents have been involved in marriage enrichment for many, many years, and so...
I don't know which one of these is working here. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Can you?
They can hear me.
All right, good.
And so as an example of that, Bob and I started our own marriage group 4 years ago, and we don't have an initiation or anything like that, but we do give presentations, so we have people speaking in front of other couples, and that would be the group that... Just on top. Well, on marriage topics, and so it's been a very rewarding and enriching group for our marriage.
Great. Okay. The marriage enrichment. And are you recruiting? Are you looking for more speakers? No. Okay. So that wasn't a commercial necessarily. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Thank you. Anyone else? Give us another example. Maybe one with more details and steps and a process and ritual. Anything?
Chris right here.
Just briefly. Just highlight briefly.
These guys are in trouble. No, I just explained that when I was in college, I joined a fraternity, and they had a very, specific ritual that there was a pledge process and learning about the history of the fraternity and what made it a unique group, and the abuse that we went through as pledges and how that brought the pledge class together and made some lasting friendships for life.
Okay. Fraternities are real good at that sort of thing. I mean, having steps, having abuse, having these difficult rituals that you have to go through. I mean, they really, really test you. And yet, it's interesting what happens to those fraternities, those college fraternities. Those guys graduate and they end up in the business world, right, of some kind. And it seems like they carry on that process, You go for a job interview and it's like you got to go through this awful, horrible process. It just kind of carries on sometimes. Yes?
I was just going to say, not what I went through, but my husband's in the military, and
And they did like, he made chief, and they had a total hazing. I never in my life, I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, it was like, they break it totally down, and they build you back up. But then these guys would be calling up and say, you gotta call these guys, you gotta do all these things, you gotta call them this. And then you had to, I mean, it was unreal. I thought, oh my gosh. And then they had to go on like a retreat where they went, and they had to be at a certain time. And I don't know what happened on it. He doesn't tell you.
Sure.
But I mean, he had a big bruise right here. So I just told you.
It's a narration of a story of military. And those of you who have had any military experience know that some of those experiences can be awful, and people don't talk about them.
Well,
So
but
sometimes
they
all
build
the,
you back up.
they do,
It's very,
they do. But boy,
But he's in charge.
they get you down.
But they have to make sure he can handle.
Sure, absolutely. They have to test you. Throughout history, there have been rituals of initiation, of welcoming, of trying to bring people, especially the ones that historically that we're probably familiar with are the childhood to adult ones that we've heard about, that the men of a village would take out the boys, and the boys have to go out in the wilderness for, a week, and have to survive on their own, and have to hunt, and have to bring back the animal, or bring back the prize of some kind, and have to be able to swim the river and do all those things. And those who don't come back just never make it to manhood, or those who quit. They are chastised and ostracized from the village. That these initiation rites have been part of history of making people tough, making them tough, really trying to get them to understand the rules and what it's like to be a person in this community. And that oftentimes is the experience even in our own lives as we get a job, and you move into a situation, and there's those steps you have to take, and some people really try to make it rough for you. They don't try to make it easy. You got to pay your dues, and then finally you work your way up to something. Initiation rites. That's what we're going to look at in terms of RCIA. What does RCIA stand for without looking at the paper? Don't look at the sheet. Just what is RCIA?
Rite of Christian initiation.
Yeah, but you got a head start on that. Yeah. Because his wife last year was in the RCIA, so Robin was in it, so they know. Go ahead, tell us again.
Rite of Christian initiation for adults.
Rite Christian initiation of adults. The rite of Christian initiation of adults. These are the rites that we use with adults who want to become Catholic. Most of us haven't experienced that because we were baptized as infants, and so then we're just simply carried into the church and we're unfolded. But yet there is an initiation process that's going on even with your own children as you have brought your children into the church. This is an unfolding. But for adults, it is very clearly defined, and there are steps. We would call them today hoops that they have to jump through in a sense, but they are the steps that they have to accomplish or go through in order to enter into the church. Robin here was a candidate last year. What is a candidate in the RCIA? Who's a candidate? What makes a candidate? Again, you're looking at your papers. That's okay. You can take the answers home. And this is all an attempt to, hopefully, that you understand the RCIA. This is a central act that's going on in the church. This is part of our liturgy, part of our formation. This is happening. Go ahead.
Someone who wants to become a Catholic.
Someone who wants to become a Catholic. Are they baptized already?
Well, I think it depends, because he did it. He was baptized, but not Catholic.
Okay.
In '94.
Great.
So
Okay.
you don't have to be baptized. I mean, are you either way? Right?
Okay, the difference is a candidate is already baptized in another tradition. So maybe you were baptized Lutheran or baptized Methodist or in another tradition. That would make you a candidate then for becoming Catholic.
Is that even somebody that was baptized Catholic but maybe didn't go through all the other stuff?
Well, we do have, they would not, the question is somebody who was baptized Catholic but has not kind of continued in their faith. We do have, for instance, confirmation candidates, adult confirmation candidates. They're not following the steps of the RCIA as clearly.
What would that be considered?
Okay, and that's good. What would somebody be called who's never been baptized? An adult who's never been baptized, and they want to become Catholic. I'm getting feedback from the overhead satellite or something here, right? I don't know what's happening, but I apologize for that to those of you who are listening at home or wherever you are in the world. That's just the way it's going to have to be. All right. What is someone called who is unbaptized, an adult, and wants to become Catholic? Okay, well, this RCIA table's got it, right? Okay. A catechumen. You look at your papers, then the answers are on there also. The catechumen. Now that's an old church term that comes back from the early church. The Greek. What is there a word that's similar to it that you might be familiar with today? Good. Catechism. All those words are related in terms of the handing on of the faith, the proclamation, the shouting out, and the catechumen is one who is in process for that. So those words all have their origin in that. So when you hear about catechumen, you can think of catechist and catechism and the process of coming into the faith freshly. So those are the two kinds of people that enter into the RCIA, which is the, altogether, rites of Christian initiation of adults. There, okay, so you learned a new church phrase, okay? You learned some of that. The church has its own vocabulary and its own terminology. Now you understand that. And so when you're at the halftime at the football game this afternoon, you could say, we learned something new at church today. We know what RCIA is. Try that out on your relatives. See how many understand those initials, okay? The process for entering into this process, somebody, usually an adult, and a couple of you have experienced it, at some point, and it's often in marriages, when there's an interfaith marriage, somebody will say, you go to your church, I go to my church. Maybe we should just bring this together. And we're expecting children, or we have children, and we really want kind of one faith in our household. I want to become Catholic, and so there's that process of entering into this formal process. But often it begins even before that, because even when people are engaged, and I'm doing marriage preparation with them, I will ask, well, what churches do you go to? And they say, well, we go to each other's churches. We both go at different times. We experience each other's faith. And often the non-Catholic has been kind of hanging around the Catholic Church for a while, has been coming to Mass and has some awareness, knows what's going on a little bit. So it's not brand new. It's not like a person just wakes up one day and says, wow, I think today I'm going to become Catholic. It's not just that. It's a process. It's stirring. It's going on. It's well, maybe today is the day, but it's been happening for a while. So there's some awareness. We rarely get people that just kind of walk in the door and say, gee, I saw the sign out front, St. James Catholic Church. Yeah, I think I'd like to join. What's that all about? That rarely happens. So there's this period of thinking about it. And that's a period of inquiring, of asking questions. And that's usually done of one's fiancé or spouse or other family members, or somebody else. Sometimes it's a person at work, a friend, a relative of some kind that might have some information and say, tell me a little bit more about your church. What do you do there? What do you believe in? What's the difference? And you go, well, I'll get back to you on that. We'll bring that up at the next gift session. That's where we go to get all those answers, or something like that. So people inquire, and then at some point they make a decision. They come and they say, okay, I really want to enter into this process. And there are formal classes for that are conducted in the parish. Sister Carol Ann Yeager conducts that process. And then at some point, the person is asked, are you really serious about going on in this process? Are you really thinking about this? You don't have to make a decision. You don't have to become Catholic today, and we won't hold you to it. You don't have to sign on the dotted line. But are you really going to commit to coming to class on a weekly basis or a regular basis? And people say, yeah, I'm really serious about this. Okay. Then they enter into and they celebrate what is called the rite of acceptance. And that is done publicly in church. They are welcomed into the community. The unbaptized. What is one of the first things that happens to an infant at baptism? The first sign that the ritual of baptism is taking place. What's the first activity that lets you know that the ritual of baptism is taking place? I think just about all of you have children. You brought them. They introduce them. Those are the words that are spoken. What name have you given your child? And what do you ask of God's church? And what do you ask of God's church? What did you ask of God's church for your children? Yep, you all had your baptisms before Father Art. Look in today's bulletin. The answer is life in Christ. Okay, that's the answer that he wants, life in Christ. Baptism is a correct answer, but life in Christ is a fuller answer. It has more meaning to it. In today's bulletin, there's an explanation of that. Okay, so you ask for baptism, you ask for life in Christ, and then you ask, are you willing to raise this child as a child of God? Yes. We'll come to church every Sunday. Yeah, we'll do all that stuff. Yes. Godparents, are you willing to support the parents? Yes. Willing to pay for the college tuition? Yes. Okay, all that's going on. And then comes the first ritual act. What is that act? Sign of the cross. Priest says, I claim you for Christ Jesus. I welcome you in the name of Christ, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I invite your parents and godparents to do the same. The sign of the cross. In the rite of acceptance of adults, they are brought forward, and there's a beautiful ritual in which they are signed on their forehead, on their senses, their ears, their eyes, their mouth, their heart, their feet, their hands. All the senses are signed for Christ. And you can do that with an adult, and you can have these beautiful prayers because they'll stand there. Your babies wiggle and scream. We don't get a chance to do all of those. We're lucky we can get the one on the forehead without too much problem. But for an adult who is not baptized, that signing is done as a complete body experience, that they are indeed signed by Christ and claimed for Christ. That is the beginning process. Here at St. James and many other parishes, that often takes place at the beginning of Advent. So that happens in Advent. And at that point, they become catechumens. The candidates are then accepted and they become candidates. This is all leading to the Easter Vigil. This year it's a condensed program. This is a very short program. Those who join the program and Easter is April 21st. How many more classes do we have? But when you have Easter on March 23rd, it's like, whoa, one less month. Well, it's also one less month of teaching that they have. But it doesn't end there anyway, so it doesn't matter. So they become catechumens, candidates. Then, and this is the part that we're looking at because we're looking at Lent. Lent is a very important time for catechumens and candidates. On the first Sunday of Lent, the catechumens celebrate the rite of election. And you see that on your papers there. The right of election and the enrollment of names in the book of the elect. Now, the right of election, you say, every 4 years, right? No, it's not that kind of election. The congregation doesn't, have the little buzzers. It's not like, American Idol or anything. You say, should we keep them or not? No, it's not that kind of thing. Election means call. That's the origin of that word, elect, to call forth. And what we are celebrating is God's call of this individual to celebrate the Easter sacrament. So it's an affirmation of God's call through the community. So it's the right of election. It is celebrated with the bishop. It is celebrated at the cathedral. And thousands of people celebrate this every year. It's a beautiful ritual. And did you go down last year?
No, actually, there was a storm.
Oh, a storm came up. You weren't able to go down.
I don't know if they canceled everybody's.
Okay, you're on that week? Because they celebrate.
Church did not go.
They celebrate like 2 or 3 weekends because there are so many.
And our weekend.
And your weekend got snowed? 2 weekends? Okay, I know it's multiple times. Oh, twice on each Sunday. So 4 times it's celebrated. Okay. But it's a beautiful ritual for people to go down to the cathedral. It's crowded. You get to see that you're not alone. And the bishop accepts then these candidates, or these catechumens, as elect, as God's chosen ones. And part of that is that they have to have somebody speak on their behalf, their sponsor. Now, they don't do that publicly individually at the rite. It's usually done in the parish. And said, will anybody speak on Nancy's behalf? Is she a Christian? Is she one of us? Has she been coming to church regularly? I mean, how would you like those kinds of questions asked of you? Excuse me, not me, The question is often posed, if you were arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you? Would anybody, say, well, yeah, he's really guilty, she's really guilty? No. Oh, man, that would be awful, But what we're looking for with the elect is to say, these people have been gathering regularly, have been praying with us, have been taking this seriously, and yes, are willing to go forth. The bishop asks that in a general way of all the sponsors at the cathedral. Are they willing to, have they been faithful to their commitments? Yes. Are they, willing to go forward? Yes, they are. They look like they're worthy. That is done prayerfully, and that is the call of God coming through these people. Those who are baptized are already elect through their baptism. They are not re-elected, if you will. They've already, all of us through baptism have already been called. The elect, those who are elected though, sign their names in what is called the book of the elect. And that is done in the parish. They sign their names. There's something about signing. When you sign on the dotted line, you know you are committed. You know that you've made a commitment to something. And so they do that. The books of the elect are presented at the cathedral, and the bishop signs on the bottom line. He signs his name to affirm that. It's really a very powerful ceremony. It's the things that most of us miss when we're baptized as infants. All that is happening, but not ritually. We're all called, we're elected, we're signed, all those things are going on. But who remembers it? Who knows it? Not many of us. So, if any of us, I don't know, Father Jerry talked about that in his homily today, about the kid who said, yeah, I remember everything about my baptism. Yeah, the video. I remember seeing the video, but I don't really remember that. So the adults get to do that. They enter into, this happens at Lent, then in the beginning of Lent, and Lent becomes a time that is called purification and enlightenment. Purification, a time to do away with all sin, anything that is an obstruction to becoming fully united with Christ. It becomes kind of a spiritual retreat for the elect, for those who are preparing for the Easter sacraments. It also becomes a time of enlightenment. So getting rid of and then filling the head with this newness of the faith. And the special part of, well, the purification comes in 3 rituals called the scrutinies. The scrutinies. And the scrutinies are special prayers that are prayed for the elect on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Sundays of Lent. And those are prayers that call forth for the freeing of them from sin, that evil will not take hold of their lives, that they may be just freed up to enter into this relationship, this new and wonderful relationship with Christ. The enlightenment comes especially from all the Gospels of Lent, but especially the 3 on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Sundays. Those are 3 special Gospels. On the 3rd Sunday of Lent, in the A cycle of reading, how many cycles of reading do we have? Good, 3, good. Okay, Andy's got it in the back. Either that or you're telling me we only have 3 minutes left. But we have 3 cycles of readings, A, B, and C. I bet the church had an incredibly large committee that worked on that for years, and that's all they could come up with was A, B, and C. I mean, they didn't come up with saints' names or anything. I mean, it's just A, B, and C. But thank goodness we have one thing that's easy in the church then. This year we are in the A cycle of readings. So the A cycle will be used during Lent on that 3rd Sunday when we have these special readings. We have the readings that, first of all, deal with the woman at the well, is the third Sunday of Lent. The 4th Sunday is the man born blind, and the whole dialogue that goes on there. And then the 5th Sunday is the raising of Lazarus and preparing for the resurrection. All of those readings, and you have, nope, you don't have them. Okay. Just toss them around, okay. Send these down. Here are the list of the readings that we have. These are the parts that deal with the enlightenment, if you will. These readings are aimed specifically for the catechumens. They are trying to teach the catechumens one essential truth. Who is Jesus Christ? Remember, these are generally people unbaptized who may not have the familiarity of the Christian tradition that we do. And so these readings, these Gospels, which come from the early church, in which people like St. Augustine would preach for 2-3 hours on these Gospels, because they would try to give all the information about Jesus to these catechumens. They wanted to give them the whole message, teach them everything about that. You can reflect on these on your own and look at them as teachers and saying, if you were using these Gospels at home, and I hope that you do during Lent, what truth would you be teaching your children about Jesus Christ? What truth or truth? So you could write down all kinds of things there. You say, okay, the first Sunday of Lent is always the temptation of Jesus. What truth does that teach us? The story of the temptation of Christ. What does that teach us? Just give me some answers. I mean, you're familiar with that story. You hear it every year. It's always the same gospel, but it's either from Matthew, Mark, or Luke. That changes, but it's always the gospel of the temptation. What does that teach us about Jesus?
Human, fully human.
Okay, that Jesus was human, that he was tempted, that there was the testing that goes on. What else does it teach us? Anything else? What happened to it, Andy?
Well, he didn't give in to that temptation.
He didn't give in. Okay, so he didn't give in to the temptation. And in fact, what does he tell, and especially in Matthew's account, what does he tell the tempter that he is? He actually gives the answer. He said, remember what he says at the end. You have that one? That one's out. Okay, good. Oh, that's the wrong one. No wonder.
Yeah.
Ooh, we collect those. What does he tell them at the end? Thou shalt not tempt the Lord your God. So what's the implication? Who was tempted? God. So what does that mean about Jesus? He is the Lord your God. So that was the truth that is there. That Jesus was indeed God. Here are the answers to your green sheet. Don't look at those right away. Look at your green sheets, kind of do those for yourself, and then look at the cream-colored sheets, which will have some of the answers. Because what we do as part of a process of initiation, even as you were initiated into a fraternity or into a job or into a college, somebody has to teach you the rules. Somebody has to give you the information about the organization. And that's what these Gospels during Lent is doing. These Gospels are giving us the information, the central information about this organization. They are giving us the central information about Jesus Christ. Then, at the Easter Vigil, the Saturday night before Easter, the candidates and the catechumens gather in church. Beautiful service. Begins in darkness, 7:30 at night. Bring your children at least once to experience the Easter Vigil. Kids love the movement from the darkness. The fire starts outside. Kids just love to see that fire, this great big bonfire go up. The Easter candle is lit, comes into the darkness of church. Kids are just in awe over that. And then from that Easter candle, individual candles are lit, and the church becomes ablaze with all these individual candles, and the lights aren't on yet, there's a darkness. Kids are spellbound by this. They're just fascinated. They capture it. They capture what's going on because they just soak it in. And then the account of our faith tradition goes on. And then eventually we move to the baptism, to the blessing of the water and to the stirring of the waters, and the new catechumen, the catechumen, and then is baptized and confirmed and then welcomed to the table. The candidates, those already baptized, are confirmed and welcomed to the table. There's this vast expanse of light that comes on and bursts forth, and the alleluias and the glorias, and everything just comes alive. I tell you, treat yourself and bring your children once for sure to experience that. It's a powerful, powerful experience. I remember our son, we took him, I think when he was about 5 or 6, and every year for until he became a teenager, said he wanted to go. He said, I want to go to that Easter Vigil every year. But then he reached about 12, and he said, I'm not even going to church anymore. He reached that kind of thing. He really, but every year he really looked forward to the Easter Vigil. That was a great event for him. That excited him. He was paid attention. Yes, Pat.
I want 30 seconds to say that all the things that you say about adults who are unbaptized also apply to children from about the age of 8 on up, if they're unbaptized.
Good point. Good point. The adults, and what Pat's saying is that, anybody 8 on up is treated as an adult in this RCIA process. Yeah, I have limited myself to talking about adults, but children, it also happens that if they're unbaptized, they're treated in that same kind of way. So thank you for clarifying. But come to the Easter Vigil. Bring your children. Experience that. It's powerful. 7:30, it lasts about 2 hours. It's our longest liturgy of the year, but you get your money's worth, okay? A lot of things happen in that, okay? It's really a great liturgy, wasn't it? Well, especially when you're the center of attention, yeah, then when you're the focal point. But that's... Right.
I mean, and it wasn't that huge of a part that
Sure.
baptism.
Right. But Robin was a candidate last year, this past Easter, and experienced that coming into church. Did you experience it that way when in 95, 96? It was
Here in Tulsa, it's a little different.
a little different, but it was the Easter Vigil? Okay. But of course it's not going to be like here. No, St. James is really going to be spectacular and grand. So come again, experience it. Experience it for the first time. All right, so you have the readings. You have kind of some homework to reflect for those Gospels, for yourself for Lent. And then you do have the answer sheet on the cream-colored sheets. You know, you can kind of look at that and see what did you get and what were the answers that I put down. Doesn't mean my answers are the only ones. Whatever you came up with, would expand upon that, okay? But that's what we want to hand on. That's the handing on of the faith. That's the handing on to your children. The tricky part is finding some way to hand it on to them. Okay, quick question. It's 25. I'm right on time, okay? I just want you to know that, okay? Any quick question? Yes? Oh, mystagogia. We didn't get that. Mystagogia. It's a word of mystery. It's the unfolding of the mystery. All of us are in the period of mystagogia. After baptism, after being fully initiated, all of us enter into that period of the unfolding of the mysteries. It's a great Scrabble word. Okay? Mystagogia. Put that one in your back pocket and you'll dazzle your friends, and it's probably worth about 125 points if you get it on a triple square somewhere, okay? All right, thank you very much. It's been great being with you.